Hello, everyone. This is Joey Johnston on behalf of Siegel Speakers, and our guest today is Kemp, one of the big names in the sport of wrestling. He was a three-time world champion, one of the best college wrestlers ever, had a 101 match winning streak at one point. He has gone on to contribute back to the sport as a coach. He was a coach in the 2008 Olympics, and he still coaches today. And he's a broadcaster and a motivational speaker. He is available to speak to your group, and believe me, he will get you motivated and get you thinking on the path to a better life. Lee has also written a book called Winning Gold, where he shares some of his motivational tips and secrets, and he's the subject of a documentary, Wrestled Away, the Kemp story, which is available on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. Lee, welcome. Glad to have you here.
I'm very excited to be here as well. Thank you, Joey.
Lee, I wanted to just ask you a few things about motivation, about living a good life, things that you've learned through the sport of wrestling and also just through living life. One thing I noticed in your book was a quote by Harold Kushner that said, "Our souls are hungry for meaning." And I think what he meant was we all want to make our lives matter. We all want to make a difference in some way, and some of us spend our whole lives striving for the answer to that question. What would you say to someone who is hungry for meaning? How do you find meaning in your life? How do you go about finding the path to that sort of life where you're making a difference?
Well, for me, I have to go back to finding a purpose for your life. You have to find, not just what drives you, but what the end result is going to be. And unfortunately, sometimes going through a hardship will allow you to find the real purpose of your life. Sometimes, maybe, in fact, we've all known people who've gotten sick, maybe with some terminal type of illness. And I have, so I'm just bringing it up because some of those individuals that I've got to know, I learned from them just by watching what they were going through, how they shifted things that used to be important, no longer important. And you start to just through life circumstance sometimes will move you into a place of you understanding what's really important and what has meaning. And really, the things in meaning and purpose involve other people. They're not objects. They're not things. They're not money. And influence and power and then recognition. It's the human element that really drives purpose in your life. Because really, that's all we really have is each other as human beings. And I think if the world could ever figure that out, we could stop all this fighting that we do as the world. Things like this current coronavirus opens my eyes up even wider to the fact that we all have to learn to live together. This common virus that could take out a large sections of the world population makes us realize that we're really all in the same boat. So what really is important is relationships that we're able to have with other people and how we can enhance other people's lives. The purpose that I now have in my life kind of revolves around things like that. I see things in a way different light. Like when I see a homeless person, I realize that I wasn't that far from that. I mean, I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. Kids were, I was like, what makes it that much different, that person than me? And it really was not that much. It was very little. I was fortunate to have people in my life that cared about me, that helped me kind of get back on my feet. So now I feel like it's important for me to try to do that for other people. And wrestling has given me a platform to, right away be involved with other wrestlers. And I've been asked to speak and to provide my point of view on this recent, postponement of the Olympic Games, and most recently, the national tournament being canceled for all the college wrestlers throughout the United States. So being able to do things like that and be a credible person to talk about it allows these athletes to look at me right in the eye and kind of understand, okay, yeah, I get it. There's things more important than being a national champion. Even though I wanted it really bad, I know that when I'm your age, I hope I am able to keep moving forward and keep having purpose in my life, having meaning. Maybe I can, help my family if I have a family, if I get married, if I have kids, if I move them and give them, ideas and purpose and help shape their thinking so that they understand there's many things that can become important in life. So meaning is what's really important. I mean, I've seen. In fact, I'll give you this example. I remember I was working so hard to become a world champion. When I became a world champion, I can remember a friend of mine asking me, "Lee, how does it feel to be a world champion?" Well, it really doesn't feel any different. I don't know what I was expecting to have happen. Before you get there, you think this magical thing is going to happen. I think the media creates that. Television, movies, these things that aren't really real, I realized that I was just the same person. I thought back to when I won my first high school state title. I remember how hard I worked for that. But that meant the world to me. But when it happened, I can remember my dad even asking me, "Willie, how does it feel now?" The next morning. And I said, "Well, it really doesn't feel any different." And he said, "That's right. It's not going to feel any different." My dad was a really wise man. In fact, right in that moment, he also told me, he said, "I'm happy that you won the state title." But he said, "There's people out there that could beat you." I said, "What do you mean?" This is back when I was in high school. I'm a state champion. Tough, I felt like Muhammad Ali at the time. I was ready to go off and tell him how great I was, He said, "Well, maybe there's an opportunity that you have that they didn't have. Maybe an injury. Maybe," he talked about all these things. And he was teaching me. It was a teachable moment. And I realized after I got done feeling, getting my ego broken a little bit, I realized he was right. There's many circumstances that all fall into place that allow you to stand on that podium for that moment. But it's really it really is nothing. I mean, I don't want to say it's nothing, but it really isn't the thing that makes you who you are. I've been more motivated by people that didn't have medals, that didn't have championships, that didn't have uh, money. I mean, I've gotten in conversations with homeless people, and I've learned quite a bit. There have been movies that I focused on that kind of highlighted. I can't think of the name of the movie now, but Will Smith was in a movie where he was with his son and he had lost everything and
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness. That movie reminded me a little bit of me and my son. My son was little at the time when he came back in my life. I didn't have anything, didn't even have a place to live. I mean, that's a whole nother story. And it was just him and me. And he was so little where, we could have been living in a box outside. He would have thought it was okay because he was with his dad. That's what's important in life. It's not what you can give somebody in terms of something monetary. It's my kids have come back later and have said to me as a parent the things we all want to hear as parents. They say, "Dad, thank you for the things you taught me when I was young. I really appreciate it. I know how hard you were working as a dad to provide a good home for us, and that really meant a lot to us." My daughter told me that not too long ago. She's 26 years old now. So, and my son tells me that on a regular basis. So that's what that quote meant to me, and that's why I wanted to have it at the very beginning of my book, and to have people see that it's not about success all the time. Success isn't always measured quantitatively in terms of things. Uh, it could be measured in terms of what's really in your heart and what you're trying to give back to people.
One of the more compelling parts of your life and your wrestling life was the 1980 Olympic Games, when you were not allowed to compete because of the boycott that President Jimmy Carter imposed on the athletes. Not only you, but a lot of athletes in different sports weren't allowed to go to Moscow to compete, and you were the prohibitive favorite to win the gold medal. So certainly that's a gap in your athletic life that will never be fixed. Some people might call that a tragedy that you weren't allowed to compete, but you've managed to move past that. And we all have setbacks in our lives, many of them tragic, that we have to find a way to get past. What advice would you give to people who are seeking a way to triumph over tragedy, to get past tragedy, and to move on with their life?
I think the very first thing that you have to do is you have to take an assessment of your life. And in that assessment, you have to make some hard choices. And some of those hard choices might mean, different set of friends, maybe. It might mean that you quit your job and do something else. I mean, maybe those are the most dramatic cases. But I'll give you an example. There is an acquaintance that I have, person that I worked with in my early life when I was working in business. Was a woman. She was very, very successful, and she ended up getting breast cancer, and it changed her whole life, as it would change any of our lives. We kind of are told we don't have long to live. It was something that she had to stop and reassess her life. And the way she explains it, and she should write a book actually, but as she was telling the story, when she got the call from her doctor, she was busy. Had a plane to catch. She had meetings. She had appointments, and her doctor on the phone is trying to get her to slow down and say, "Hey, look, I need to tell you something." Well, it can wait. Let's talk tomorrow. No, we have to talk now. After 5 minutes of that jockeying back and forth, when she finally got the news, she realized, wow, none of this other stuff is really important. And the good news is that she beat it and she's, cancer free, but she changed her whole life around. And those changes meant, she changed every aspect of her life because she realized just how really unimportant those other things were. So I'm not saying that you have to go through dramatic things like that, but and 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 hopefully a tragedy or some turn of circumstance doesn't happen in in your life that makes that something that you have to do immediately. But I think we all need to take an assessment of our lives to see where we're going and to see if this is really the direction we want to be going in. And maybe some hard choices have to be made. Maybe a job change. Maybe you realize you need a whole new set of friends. Maybe you have to let go of that person that's in your life that really maybe isn't good for you. So none of this is easy. I've read books on it. I've listened to lectures on it. I've heard people talk about it. And there's different angles that speakers and people that write books come at this topic, but really they all end at the same place. The place is you. You've got to make some changes. And there could be some help that gets you there. You could be, you could have an addiction and you go through all the different rehab things that get you to a certain place. But the bottom line is, it all starts with you. You've got to decide to make a change, and sometimes it takes some hard friends that tell you those hard, like tough love, I guess, as they say. But I didn't do it all by myself. That's for sure. I had a good friend that was that was in my life. They'll call me at various points in time when I was going through some really tough times, and that person would stop what they were doing to talk to me, to help me. So I think it's paying it forward. I think there's enough people in our circle of influence, no matter how big or how small um, our lives are at the time. You could be great, popular, a lot of notoriety, or you can be like that person that's homeless on the street. Uh, we all need to give back in some way. Uh, and I've had someone that was kind of homeless in the street, after having a conversation with them, gave me some things that really touched my life and helped me uh, uh, move in a little bit different direction. You can get advice from anyone. And I always try to break down all the barriers, all the walls, of me feeling like I'm better than someone else and try to meet them at the level that they're at, because people met me at the level that I was at when I was seemingly in a place of, great humility I had to have because I had lost everything. But yet, uh, people came to me and I could tell that they were uh, meeting me where I was at, and we were like on a human level. Because those people could understand that they realized, hey, this thing that happened to Lee could happen to me. So, and I could, not that they said that, but I could tell that that's where they were coming from. And so I try to come from that same place when I'm communicating with someone, because, in just an instant, their life could change. Just an instant, my life changed when I was a car dealer. I mean, literally, just, someone coming in, serving me papers, having the economy shift. And then a year from then, I was in a totally different place than I was.
I think it goes without saying, if you're a high-level wrestler, you have to be pretty tough. You have to have a toughness about you. And all of us need that at times in life when we're facing adversity. What do you say to someone who wants to be tough and they don't feel like they're tough at all and they're going through something? How do you develop that kind of toughness, that thick skin to get you through the tough times?
That's a great question too. For me, you could always find an example of someone that's tough in your environment. It doesn't have to be someone that you even know. Because when I met Dan Gable for the first time, I was 14 years old. I was just a kid going to a wrestling camp, and there was the great Dan Gable there teaching us all as the coach of that camp. And it was the summer of 1972, so he was training for the Olympics at that time. So he'd teach us for the 2-hour session, then he would go off and he would work out, lift weights, he'd run, he would train. And I saw the intensity that he was training at, and I knew that that was nowhere near where I was at. So I felt that if I wanted to be like Dan Gable, I had to do what he was doing. So I'll put it into a just kind of a relevant context to when I was coaching. I would be trying to motivate a young wrestler to be a state champion, and I would tell them exactly what I thought they needed to do in terms of the hard work and the training and the weightlifting and the running and all those things. And there were times where these athletes would actually tell me, Coach, that is too hard. I don't really want to do that. I don't think I really want it that bad. And I would say, okay, I showed you where the standard was. If that's not a place you want to go, that's great that you were able to understand that. Because not everybody can be a high level champion. Not everybody's going to stand in that number one spot. You might be happy just to make the team, and that's okay. I can't force you to go into a place that you don't want to go to. So to really to zero in on the question, I tell people, if you want to be a great wrestler, you got to be the best wrestler in your room, in your environment, on your team. When you exhaust that, you got to find a different team, a different environment. You got to become the best in that environment. You've got to keep putting yourself in a competitive situation, and you've got to keep striving to be the best in that environment. When I competed, I found no satisfaction out of beating someone that was not on my level, really. I mean, like a guy didn't have a good record, or I didn't really want to wrestle that match. It wasn't important to me to amass a lot of victories, even though at the end of my career I did have all these victories. I wasn't thinking about going 101 matches, and I didn't even. I mean, I knew I had broken Gable's record, sort of, but I didn't really care about that. It wasn't important. I wanted to beat the very best people. So throughout my career, I put myself in the most difficult training situation and difficult competitive situation that I could be in. Meaning, like, I had a choice not to wrestle Dan Gable, but I wanted to. I had a choice not to cut down the weight class just to wrestle Chuck Abel, the guy who beat me the year before. I wanted to see how good I was, and I didn't know I was going to win those matches, but it was exciting for me put myself out there just to see how good I could be. So to that individual that is seeking uh, the knowledge, their own knowledge of how good they really are, to that person, I would say, yeah, I can help you get there because I can put you into situations that are really going to challenge you. I'll give you one more example. Tom Brands, who is the head coach at the University of Iowa right now. He's got a twin brother named Kerry, and they both were multiple-time national champions, both sports. But Tom was an Olympic champion. Tom had a little more success than his twin brother, Terry. And Tom tells me now that now that he's coaching, now that he's in his 40s, he said that I hated Dan Gable. His eyes would flare up. I thought that man was trying to kill me. I hated him because Dan pushed him. Dan knew just he could push you right to the point of like death almost and then pull back. He wanted to take you to a place that you had never been so that you knew you could be there. And it takes a truly great coach to do that. Dan was able to do that with me as well.
You talked about your goals, and you certainly at some point in your high school career, you said you wanted to never lose another match. You wanted to be a champion at every level, and that's certainly as high as you can possibly lift your goals. We all need to dream, and we should dream big. What do you say to somebody about how you go about the process of dreaming big and putting something out there to chase? How do you do that in your life? How do you establish those kind of dreams that you can chase and perhaps achieve one day?
That's something that that I had to come to terms with throughout my career, because none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We don't know if we can achieve all these things. And I've had athletes that I was coaching tell me, I don't know if I want to put all that work in to come up short. And as a result of that, you can see certain athletes holding back, or their training. You can see them holding back. You can see them not wanting to sacrifice maybe going out, having fun with their friends, because they don't want to miss the party. They don't want to miss these other things and put all their eggs into that one basket. And we tell people that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, right? We tell people that, like if you put it in terms of money or invest in your money, you shouldn't put all your money into one investment, because if that investment doesn't turn up right or goes bad, then you lose everything. That mentality is just the opposite of what you have to do if you're trying to do what I was trying to do. You are putting all your eggs in that one basket. You are dreaming big. You are trying to do the impossible, really. You're trying to be the David in the David Goliath scenario. That's not for everybody, and it takes a great coach to realize what type of athlete they're dealing. In the case, that example I gave of Dan Gable and Tom Brands, Dan Gable realized he had an athlete that was similar to himself in Tom Brands. So he pushed Tom to the very edge, to where Tom says, I hated him. I thought he was trying to kill me. But at the same time, Dan has coached athletes that maybe didn't place in the Nationals. And that's another example. For the Iowa to win the team title, they needed every athlete to provide points for the team total. That means you have to win a match at the national tournament. You can't go there and not win a match, because if you win a match, you're going to provide points for the team total. Maybe that 1 point that you gained by winning your first match and then lost the next two, that 1 point you gained could have been the margin of victory that we needed as a team. As it turned out, Iowa won the national team title by a half a team point 1 year. So to that athlete, that wrestler that won that one match, he was you could argue that maybe he was part of the reason that they did win. So everybody contributes, and to that one athlete, he got to celebrate in the victory just like everyone else, just like all their other, just like the four guys who did win the title. So again, it's not all about winning and getting the medal. It's about having a winning effort and a winning performance, because we're all blessed with different levels of ability. And maybe the level of ability and talent that you were blessed with is not going to get you on the podium at all, but it's going to get you a sense of, I achieved the best that I possibly could. And I saw that. I gained a lot of satisfaction from my roommate when I was in college. He never placed even in the Big Ten tournament. He was my roommate. And one day he challenged me to work a little bit harder in practice, and it kind of blew me away. That this guy who hadn't achieved very much saw in me that I could even be a little bit better. And I was a little reluctant to take his advice, but then he invited me to a second practice that he was doing. It was kind of that extra work that they were putting. And my first thought was, well, I don't really need to do what you guys are doing. I'm better than you guys. I didn't say that at the time, but that was my mind. I said, well, I'm already winning. No, I don't really need to do some of this extra stuff. I was doing some extra things already. So he challenged me, and I went back. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and I saw how hard they were working. And I realized that, he's right. I could be better. I do that. So from that point on, I started going back with that person. So to that person, I would say, his name was Craig. Craig was a champion. He was a guy that motivated me to be the champion that I was. So without Craig, maybe I wouldn't have put that extra work in. So and Craig had a dream of being a national champion. He had a dream of being an Olympic champion because we were roommates. We talked about it. And to dream big is what life's really all about. And I still am dreaming big. I still have big dreams, big goals, big plans for my life. And there's never a point in your life where you really stop doing that.
Whether you want to be a wrestling champion or you want to advance your career, you need a work ethic, and you need to know how to work hard. How do you establish a work ethic in order to achieve those dreams? What are the key things to learn how to be able to work for your goals?
Well, again, I alluded to this earlier. The first thing is, whatever environment you're in, you can always find the people that are successful. Like when I started working outside of wrestling, when I had my first job in business in New York City, looking for a hotel, and I could spot very quickly, just like I was able to spot as a wrestler who the good wrestlers were. I could spot who the successful people were in my department. I could see who the champs were. I put it in that terminology, because we'd be in meetings. I could see how they presented themselves. I could see that they were prepared for the meetings, and I could see that I really wasn't that prepared. I could see that they were smart, that they were pushing us all to work a little bit harder in the meeting. They were setting high goals for marketing plans that we were doing. So I could see right away that I want to be like that person, because that person is a champion in my mind, thinking of wrestling, but now I'm in business. I want to be like those champions now. So I would say that you start moving yourself to be and to emulate champions in your environment. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's business, whether it's sports. When I went back to graduate school, that was a chance for me to prove to myself that I could be a good student. Because when I was in college, I majored in wrestling. My goal was just to be eligible. I mean, I would have a C average, and I was okay with that. My effort that I put in was a C-level effort, and I got rewarded with a C, and I was happy with that. I went to graduate school, and I realized that wasn't going to be the thing. And plus, I was paying for graduate school. And so I realized the effort I was putting in, I wanted to have the very best result. So I did the same thing. I started to associate with the people that were getting A's. And they're not hard to find. I started studying with the people that were the good students in my business classes. I started to just make friends with them. It's not hard to do that. And just like I did when I was a wrestler, just like I did when I was in business. So I would say you have to see what the best people in your environment are doing. Now, if you were around a bunch of lazy people and if you're in an organization that isn't really all that successful, I think it would be, the example of their performance would be evident. And I just have never seen lazy people and people who don't work hard become successful. They might get lucky or something, but sustained success that I've seen in any discipline, the people that got it there were people who were very smart, people that worked very hard, people that did more than everybody else. And I noticed that when I was at Claro. I noticed that when like for instance, an example, when I was ready to leave the office, as I was walking to leave, I noticed the light was still on in a few people's offices. And I'm like, God, it's 7 o'clock. I want to go home right now, And I noticed these people still working. So I noticed that was like, it wasn't just a one-time thing. I thought, well, maybe it's just, they just are trying to finish up something. It's not going to be like that, like all the time. I noticed that that's what they did every day. But those were the people getting promoted. Those were the people that were vice presidents. Those were the people that were leading a company in different places. And I realized that's no different than when I was going back at night at 8 o'clock. And Craig was inviting me to come back and work out. We were the only people in the room. So it was just the 4 of us, me and Craig and 2 other wrestlers. And we were the ones that were having the most success on the team. And Craig did have some success, by the way. He just had an unfortunate thing that happened toward the end of his career that was so unfortunate. But that relationship of hard work and success was always a consistent one with me. It always seemed to work out that way for people around me. The most successful people were the ones that were working the hardest. And just like in wrestling, the ones that are the most successful, the ones that were putting in the most effort. And there's one little element of that too that you don't really get from training, but you get through your mentality, and that is being able to handle pressure, being able to perform when the pressure is on. That's difficult for anyone. It doesn't matter whether it's business, doesn't matter whether it's a sport. There comes a time when you have to perform. Doesn't matter where you're presenting your business proposal, you're trying to get this deal, you're trying to, get your company off the ground, or it's no different than if you're in the national finals, state finals, or whatever. You're having to walk out under the bright lights to perform. And by the way, those people that are able to perform, they're not always feeling great when that day comes. There are times when I had my championship finals when I really didn't feel all that good. They didn't tell anybody because, who's going to listen anyway, but you still have to perform. And I'm sure that my mom and dad, when they were getting up going to work every day, they didn't feel great every day either. But I had great examples of them never missing work, going to work when they were tired, going to work when they were sick. We all see it around us in business. I see it in some of my mentors in business. I'm sure every day they weren't feeling the greatest, but they were at work every day. They still performed. They still had presentations they gave. They still moved the company forward. So it's the ability to do what you have to do no matter what. And I think some of the late night practices, some of the late nights in the office, putting in that example, that helps you understand that you can perform and push yourself even when you don't feel like it. So that allows you to handle pressure of performing. So your level of performance, even though it might not be at the highest level because maybe you don't feel that good, but it's still higher than everyone else's, and it's still enough to get you the victory because you've elevated all your training up to that level all the time. So that gives you the ability to perform even when you don't feel the best, even when maybe there are circumstances that come in that could bring your performance down. Your performance is one that still remains higher than everyone else's.
Well, Lee, those are great principles, whether you're going to be an athlete or a business person or raise a family. Those are all things we can take to heart. Thank you very much for that. He is Lee Kemp, a 3-time world champion wrestler, a great college wrestler who once won 101 straight matches. He is available to speak to your group on any motivational techniques or anything to get you moving in a good direction. As you can see, he is a believer in living your best life, and he can give you some tips on how to do just that. He has written a book called Winning Gold, in which he shares some of his motivational secrets. And he's also the subject of a documentary called Wrestled Away, the Lee Kemp story, which is available on iTunes and Google Play and Amazon. Lee, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We enjoyed it.
Thank you, Joey, for having me on. It's been really fun. Thank you.
This is Joey Johnston on behalf of Siegel Speakers, and our guest has been Lee Kemp. We'll hear much more from him later on in the series. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.